I can get it on YouTube. Never mind. I can get it on the YouTube because we'll be on the YouTube channel, so I can get it.
Yeah. All right. We are live now, and welcome to an very impromptu night shift. Nick and I are currently live in Tampa, Florida right now, where it is a torrential downpour here in Tampa, Florida, which means the American Athletic Conference Track and Field Championship is under weather delay. But that, of course, doesn't mean that nothing happened today, because softball are American Athletic Conference tournament champions for the second consecutive season. So, with nothing else, Nick and I have nothing else to do over here while we're in Tampa, so we're hiding out in my car right now. So we figured, hey, let's go ahead and get in the car together, bring Eric Lopez on, and let's talk about the weekend that has been so far here in Tampa, Florida. Eric has already made his way back to Orlando, and he's safe and dry at home, while Nick and I are just trying to stay dry here. Nick actually had to hop over from his car, which is parked right next to mine. So are you as dry as you can be, Nick?
Honestly, I'm pretty dry. I'm good. Just what are we doing? What is this? What's going on?
We're living the dream. That's what we're doing. We're living the dream.
This is my first night shift. This is literally my first night shift. This is how we're doing it.
In your hometown, your home backyard.
That's fair. That's fair.
So anyway, let's go ahead and just give a little bit of an idea of where things are at the moment. So this is currently day 2 of the Track and Field Championships. And as far as UCF Track and Field is concerned, because there is men's teams that have done events as well, but they're not really of consequence to UCF's team because UCF doesn't have a men's team. Right now, so far, the heptathlon has finished. That's all done. With Natalia Madison got 4th, and then Holly Cassels got 5th. So UCF finished 4th and 5th in heptathlon earlier today. They were in the process of doing their second event of the day, the long jump. In fact, Jasmine Scott Kilgo, I was down when the rain delay got called. I was over by the long jump bay where Jasmine Scott Kilgo was about to do her second jump, and that's when they called the rain delay. So all of this, that's all they were able to get through today as far as UCF is concerned. And there was a whole program of track events that was supposed to start at 5:25. And of course, now this rain delay really drives a wedge into that. So there's still a lot more action of track ahead of us if this rain clears up today, or they might have to cram a lot tomorrow. Who knows? That's where track stands right now. But the big story so far, maybe we'll have more to talk about later in the weekend, is that the UCF softball team has won the conference tournament championship in back-to-back seasons with those black jerseys on right
season,
there.
Baby. It's ring season.
Eric,
I have rings. I'm getting another ring, right? That's good.
Eric,
yes, sir.
Eric, you were there. Give me your emotions, because I remember you came up right behind me as I was filming the celebration. I don't think I've ever seen you so giddy in my life.
Yeah, that was it was great. It was awesome. What a week, Tampa there for the team. Obviously, 2 seed coming in to win their final American Conference tournament ever, and to win it in Tampa in that park against USF. To celebrate on that field is something that we'll never forget. That is a part of the legacy of this 2023 UCF team that has won now 20 of 21. They get the automatic bid. They rule Tulsa, which, by the way, that has to be very satisfactory, too. Think of all the misery Tulsa teams have given UCF teams over the years. It was nice to kind of crush that right away and to go back-to-back championships. First UCF softball team ever to win back-to-back conference tournament titles. First UCF sports team for now to win a conference championship in Tampa. Track could join that if they get it in this weekend. And it was just surreal, man. It was just surreal. It's such an emotional week. Think about where we were Thursday, boys. They were down 4-0 to the top of the 4th to Memphis. It looked bleak. And honestly, now we can talk about it. If UCF loses that game, they're out. They're not going to make the NCAA tournament. I don't know if they would have made it even if they lost today. Well, I'll ask some people. The numbers are close. It's kind of the bubble was kind of tight this year. So there was a lot on the line. And just to overcome that and win in such dramatic fashion. And I'll set you guys up here real quick because I got to get my water. I forgot my water. Got some stars were made this week, weren't they, from softball, don't you think?
100%. I mean, let's start off with the obvious one. Sarah Willis, who was named the tournament's most outstanding player for a good reason. She's literally got the win in all 3 games. She came in relief in game 1 against Memphis, pitched, was it 5 innings?
Pitched 5 innings in relief in game 1.
Pitched all 7 innings in game 2 against USF. And then she came in, pitched all 5 innings against Tulsa to get the win.
Not 17 straight innings.
I was trying to do the math. You were way quicker than me on that. But, I mean, like, what more can you say about that? That is just so impressive. I mean, oh, my gosh. Like, I really have little words to say it. I'm just so impressed. But also, you got to give her a lot of credit because she did pretty well at the plate. I believe, if I remember correctly, she was 2 for 7 overall, and she had a RBI in game 1. And considering, we went down 4-0 in game 1, we needed all the runs we could get. So just.
Well, if you look at the post-game interviews with Sarah after the USF game and the championship, which you can find on the Black and Gold Banner at YouTube channel, all of our post-game interviews from the softball games are on there right now. Sarah mentions how the team did a really good job taking care of themselves during this period. And honestly, you'd have to do a good job taking care of yourself if you're going to pitch 17 consecutive innings. And Sarah seemed to be getting hot at the end there, right, Eric? I remember you asking her about that.
She was getting stronger because I think she struck out 4 of the last 6 she faced. Like, it's sometimes with pitchers, it takes them a while, and once they get going, they get going. Because I know I was watching it. We were watching in the upper deck. I was a little surprised she went with Sarah because Sarah hadn't pitched 3 straight days all year, especially as a starter. So I was wondering how much she would have. And I didn't think she was super sharp early. But the thing is, even when she's not sharp, it's tough to kind of get really a lot of hits off of her. So I think it was one of those things. She got stronger, got more comfortable. And obviously, when you have a lead, that helps, obviously. But you look at what she did this week. Came in relief in that Thursday game, got the win. Helped her own cause in that game. Had an RBI hit in that game. Pitched an incredible shutout Friday against USF at their park. Final meeting ever as conference rivals. With, think about how that day played out. Tulsa had upset Wichita State. So now all of a sudden, like, the stakes are higher. Because I think UCF and USF both knew at that point, with respect to Tulsa, that was the championship game. And Sarah Willis was phenomenal. Maybe the second best conference tournament starting performance by a pitcher I've seen in my 16 years at UCF. Shelby Turner in the championship game 2015 against Tulsa threw a 1-hitter to win the title. That would be the other one that probably be up for debate. But Sarah was tremendous in that game. And then today she just got stronger and stronger. This is a legendary performance. Only Allison Kime, who was doing studio stuff, which you got to talk to her, Bryson, was doing studio all week for the American Conference on ESPN Plus 15 years ago in Houston, which was my first trip with softball. 15 years ago, Allison pitched 3 straight games, started all 3 games, helped UCF win the Conference USA Championship in Houston in 2008. Sarah Willis matches her with 3 wins in 3 appearances this weekend and wins, rightfully so, the tournament MVP. And I think, Bryson and Nick, see what your thoughts on this. It was all year long. The question was the pitching. Who would step up? Who would come around? Who was going to replace Wood on Moncha? And I think by the end of the year, we've got an ace going into the Big 12, and her name is Sarah Willis, who this week, I know you were blown away, Bryson. You were stunned and how good she was considering she was pitched all 3 days. You were bound, like, I had to calm you down because you were like you were freaking out and blown away by what she was doing.
Well, I mean, it's 17 consecutive innings. Yeah. I mean, look, as someone that comes from a baseball background, I played baseball as a kid, and I cover baseball. The concept of a pitcher going that long is grounds to ask: Are you a sadist? Like, what are you doing to yourself? So. Now obviously softball pitching is different from baseball pitching. I recognize that. And so to that, I just say though, that's still a major athletic achievement to pitch 17 consecutive
No, it
innings
is.
over the course of 3 days what Sarah Willis did out there. And
Well,
the
in
fact
today's
that
day and age with 90+ degree weather too.
Yeah.
and it was hot, by the
was-
way, there.
It's
It was
bad.
hot. It's hot here in it was hot here in Tampa.
So I'm wearing the black because UCF went all black today, which, by the way, here's a great little fun note for you.
I love
UCF now has won 5 conference tournament championships. The 05 ASUN, the 08 CUSA, 2015 American, 20 last year, and then this year. All 5 of them, UCF wore all black. That's a tradition. I'm not going to give away why they wear all black. I know the reason. I don't think I'm allowed to say it, but it's a pretty, I kind of teased it on Twitter what it meant. But needless to say that, we talk about traditions and all that. That's a tradition they like to do, is have all black. Coach Malone wasn't aware of that. I actually let her know about that after the game, and she was kind of blown away because this was spooky for me, Bryson and Nick, because I called the 2015 conference championship game. It was in Orlando. It was at the Plex. UCF beat Tulsa. When I walked in today, UCF was all black. I'm like, all right. I saw Tulsa. They were wearing the same thing they wore in that 2015 title game. Spooky. Like, if you go back and watch the tapes, the highlights of the 2015 game, similar look. And I was like, ooh, eerily. And worked out just as well. In fact, much easier. UCF with the nice win. By the way, Nick, you asked about rings. Here you go. There's my.
Hey.
I have a few of those. That's good. But no, this was historic. I mean, a historic week to finish going out on top in your last tournament was significant for this group. For Shannon Doherty and Jada Cody going back to back. This has not been the smoothest of seasons, as we know. They were 19 and 18 at one point. Both of you have seen some of the tough games there, and a lot of people easily could have panicked. A lot of people could have said the season's getting away, but they turned it around and make this team. I'm really proud of this team because this team had the most scrutiny that any UCF softball team had because what they were following was last year, right? So everything was compared to last year. Everything would get scrutinized, and I thought they handled it very well, and they've created their own legacy. This team has created its own legacy in part by winning this conference championship in Tampa, the first UCF team to do that in the enemy territory. That's something nobody will ever forget. And I think some legends came out of this tournament. You mentioned Sarah Willis. She's household name, right, at UCF, don't you think, guys? I mean, she's probably Bryson. Don't you think she's now becomes in the conversation for female athlete of the year? Just what we need, more competition there.
I think it certainly does. Jeff Sharon, I remember, tweeted out. He said that that Sarah Willis is now added to the UCF softball pantheon. Which I think, if you talk about UCF softball pitchers, I actually do really agree with that. The perfect game definitely helped her, but I think this really cemented it. And the story of Sarah, being a two-way player, transferring here, then focusing on pitching and markedly improving when she focused on pitching more, and now to return to kind of hitting a little bit in the conference championship and having some of her best pitching performances of her career when the stakes were the highest, really kind of cements the case of Sarah Willis earning her spot in the pantheon of UCF softball pitchers that have come through this program. And Nick was actually talking to me about this earlier, and I think it's very interesting. So with softball, because last year's, he talked about how we covered last year and how, and while last year's softball might be, made the super regional and all that, and say that, and just suppose for me that this team doesn't make it out of the regional, because you did mention that the regional that we might get could very well be a tough one.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. And by the way, folks are watching. If you've got questions, send your comments. And I know we already got a question. I know this is a shock. JP's got a question. We will address all the questions. So comments you have, feel free. We'll address those as best as we can. For those of you that are watching, whether you're watching on our YouTube channel, whether you're watching on our Twitter Twitter handle, or if you're watching on our Facebook page, just send those questions and we'll address some of those throughout the show as you want.
So basically what I'm getting at is, say this team loses in the regional. Just we obviously you don't like it's not the ideal way to end the season, but just suppose. All right. So while last year's softball team made the super regional, and you say that is the best softball team that this program's ever seen. This softball team, though, I think might go down as a lot of people's favorite. Not the best, but favorite. And
hot take, Bryson Turner here.
Now, because
Bryson A. Turner, I'm going to start calling you.
Because
hot takes.
Because favorite doesn't necessarily mean best. And I think that this team might have earned that, because who do you have from the previous team? You obviously have Jada Cody and Shannon Doherty, who are two of the best two of the best players in program history. You still have Kennedy Searcy, a beast at leadoff. You still have, but the additions to this program are what really cements this. Sarah Willis being one of them. Chloe Evans being one of them, being the beast that on offense that she's been. Aubrey Evans, freshman phenom, that girl. She ended up getting the winning hit in the championship right there. She tied the program's single-season doubles record as a freshman. And I think this might have cemented, in my opinion, and we haven't talked about her enough this season, Jasmine Williams. I think that if anything, this weekend, I think proves a lot, because her story, her being a mother, and on Mother's Day weekend getting 2 home runs to help lift the Knights to this conference championship victory, and turning the double plays as well, being as important as they were. Her story, and doing it on Mother's Day weekend, no less. Cindy Ball Malone is a mother as well. I think that this team has a heart that I think that, while last year's team had a lot of heart as well.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that the parents' the parental storyline that comes with this team, and also of Sarah, the same storyline we mentioned with her as well. I think that there's a very big pathos factor that will endear this team to UCF softball fans for a long time.
Let me say this, Bryson, because you said I'm the one who made you think of this. When I said I think this team is my favorite, part of that originally came from sentimental reasons. This is my first year with the Banneret, and therefore it's my first year really following and getting to know a lot of the players on the team. But the more I think about it, the more I will say I think this is my favorite team for the simple reason of, and Eric, you said it, how proud you are of this team. Like, how many times on our podcast, or just, when we're just chatting at the start of the year, where we're like, oh man, we have all these struggles, pitching struggling. When are we going to get going? And now look where we are now. Like, this team has overcame so much. They got so hot. Like, they never quit. And that's an aspect I really like. Last year's team was so successful, and I was glad to get to watch it. But this is a team that I'm more proud of, in the sense that they have the aspects of a team you love to see. They don't quit, and they overcame the odds. That's why I think they'll be a lot of space.
So let me follow up on what both of you said there. There's a lot there. Here's where I will kind of agree with Bryson in this standpoint. To have this historic year last year, Bryson, you saw it, how the community kind of grabbed this team, right? Just grabbed. Yes. They went for the ride, which, no disrespect to any of the other UCF Olympic sports, and I'm putting football on the op. It doesn't count. Football is its own animal.
Football is its own beast.
All right, so I want to clarify that. Let's be real. No other UCF Olympic sport had gathered that momentum like softball did. From a community standpoint, packing the plaques, would they host, would they not? That's the most historic team. I know I'm going to get in. People are going to think controversial, maybe, some of these comments. I think last year's UCF softball team is the best UCF women's team that UCF's had in any sport since the Michelle Akers women's soccer teams in the 80s.
The most successful, I would say.
Successful and popular, right? So there's this interest that explodes to the point where people were asking all summer and fall, what's going to happen to the pitching? Like, people were talking about softball like if they were talking about football. And I think what's unique about this, they get off to the rough start. They lose 6 games via the walk-off, tough schedule, up and down, control issues. Oh, my goodness, what's going on with the pitching? Remember, they lost Ashley Griffin from last year with an injury, so you got young catchers. Doesn't look pretty. Now, the concern, and this always happens with Olympic sports, is, if you have a great year, but then if you don't do as well and you struggle, then maybe people kind of jump off, right? They stop following you. And I think what this team did, Bryson, to your point, is it continues that momentum. And I think this cements, right? It's a football school. Okay, so let me just get that out of the way. It is a football school. The passion the fan base has for football, sometimes it's not come out the right, proper way, but whatever. It's passionate, right? In football, for women's sports, that's softball. It's softball. From a women's sports standpoint, we are a softball school. And people follow it day to day. And you're right, they were living and dying. Like I saw some of the message boards, people are commenting during games, good and bad, but that's, Coach Paul Malone has said she can't go to a grocery store now without being recognized. There's a standard now, a high standard. I think from that standpoint, Bryson, what this team overcome all that and now win a conference championship at Tampa. It's one thing if this was wanted Greenville again, right? Like last year. Okay, cool. It's fun. But to do it in Tampa and to go through USF one last time was huge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the pathos. I think this team there's so much pathos with this associated with this team that while you can look at the cold hard facts and say talk about last year's team, and cold hard facts are cold hard facts for a reason, but this year's team, the pathos associated with it, I think is going. And if anyone says the 2023 UCF softball team is my favorite UCF softball team, that is the reason that they are going to pick.
Right. And the thing is, more fans are continuing because we had great crowds throughout the year. We had over 1,000 fans. Nick obviously hopped in this year. There's other people that have hopped in this year. I'm going to comment here with Brandon, our good friend, UCF Sports, Brandon Helwig, by the way. Shout out to Brandon Helwig, my longtime friend. It's over 20 years. Let me read what he wrote here on our chat room. I agree, Eric. Hosting and winning a regional cements it. In some of the years, women's soccer and volleyball did well. They basically get overlooked because of the football season. 100% agree with that. 100%. Agree. And I like those programs. I call the games. They're fun or exciting. But it's always going to be overshadowed by football. So there's a cap, there. Doesn't mean they don't have their fans. Doesn't mean people don't respect, but softball and baseball, there is no football. And so, and baseball, unfortunately, has struggled, which I don't want to get into, but obviously softball hasn't. And I think this fan base, and I don't know what you guys think, because you're younger at this, so you can relate to this. I think there's a lot of their fan base that love tailgating, right? Football games, love tailgating, Memory Mall and all that. Softball, look at how popular the left field lounge has become over there. People are tailgating there every weekend during softball home games. You could do that. I think we like outdoor sports. And there's that hook. There's that hook, and I think it's continuing that momentum. And that's why I think right now softball is the most popular women's sport. I think Coach Paul Malone, you can maybe make the argument Coach Paul Malone's the most popular coach, maybe right there with Gus. Who knows? I mean, obviously people always have detractors, and that's it. But I agree with Brandon. Let me go ahead, Brandon. I'll answer your question. Would the committee really send UCF and Florida to FSU for regional? That is the magical question, Brandon. Because obviously, yes, I think UCF's going to Tallahassee. I think UCF will be a 3 seed. We're back in the Tallahassee regional. Welcome back. By the way, the guys are in a rain delay in Tampa, so they may come and go as time goes. But
we have an update about that. Actually, we just got
breaking news. We got update.
So if you saw me widen my eyes earlier, this is because I saw this for the first time, and when I was looking at Nick with it, he was like, I was kind of silently saying, "Are you seeing this?" Yeah. So the American Athletic Conference tweeted 11 minutes ago, and I'm quoting them verbatim here. We will be restarting at 9 p.m. Eastern time with running events, long jump, and shot put. Pole vault will start tomorrow morning. So there are lights here at the USF Track and Field Stadium.
So about a 2-hour window here.
They're going to be using them tonight. They're going to be restarting now in about 2 hours. They are planning to restart, but it's looking like they're going to go pretty good into the night tonight, which will be very interesting to see what this will do for the athletes that have trials today and then the finals tomorrow, which include Renaya Jones for the 100 and who races.
Speaking of female athlete stars, notable people. That's fair.
So
All right,
anyway,
so we'll get into more of the track in the back end. That's big news there. So we now know that the tournament championship will resume at around 9.
What we missed? What you been talking about?
So I'm answering Brandon's question about would the committee really send UCF and Florida to FSU for a regional? I think UCF's going to go to Tallahassee. I would be stunned if they didn't. I think they're going to be a 3 seed. That's kind of what I feel like. The question is, who are they going to play? I think they're going to play an SEC team. The question now, is it Florida, who will more than likely, barring an upset, will not host for the first time since 2004? That's why this is a big question. So Florida, we don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to bus them to Tallahassee? That's the only place they can bus, in theory, to the 16 projected sites. Everything else, they got to fly to, because if it's over 400 miles, it's considered a flight. So that's why Florida's in the mix. If it's not Florida, I think it could be Auburn. I think it's going to be one of those two teams. Could be South Carolina, who played in the championship game today. But I think I think those are 3. I think one of those 3 teams will be UCF's opponent. And it depends on what happens. Auburn's in the mix to host. Auburn could end up going to Clemson if Clemson's hosting. I personally think South Carolina is going to Duke for a regional because they could bust there. So either Florida's going to be shipped out west or they're going to come to Tallahassee. And if they do bring Florida, can you imagine Florida, UCF, and Florida State in the same regional? I will use a World Cup. I don't know. Both of you are World Cup soccer fans?
You know I am.
I know you are, Nick. I was really asking Bryson, but
yes, I got into an argument. Come on, you remember? I got in an argument with Jeff the other day about the real one.
I did. That's a whole other story for another show.
Thing, yeah.
Well, so you know this term very well. There's always a group in the World Cup that's considered, quote, the group of death. And the reason they call it that is because that is a stacked regional of teams, like 3 to 4 teams that can literally get out of that group. Like, there's going to be good teams to get out. We could be headed for that once again here in Tallahassee, regardless of who UCF's paired with, but especially if it's Florida, that would be high profile. You could have Tim Walton, Lonnie Alameda, and Sidney Ball Malone. 3 teams that hosted last year, 3 teams in the top 16 last year in the same regional would be earth-shattering. And I think will create even more conversation, which I think is going to happen next year, that softball should be seeded 32 teams instead of 16. I think we're headed for that next year. Volleyball and women's soccer did that this year, Bryson. You know that. We both covered volleyball this year. They didn't have to go to Florida this year because of that. They were shipped out to Penn State as a result. We could see that with softball next year. But that's, Brandon, to answer your question, yeah, I think that is very plausible. In fact, in my bracketology, that's what I'm going to project is Florida. Doesn't mean it's a lot, but I think there's a high possibility they do that. But I think if it's Florida's the favorite, followed by Auburn would be the 2 teams. And remember, Auburn was a team that UCF played in the 21 Tallahassee regional. So South Carolina, actually, at UCF have a history. They played in the 2015 regional in Tallahassee. So that's the question. Let me toss this to you, Bryson and Nick, because Brandon wanted to know thoughts on the USF softball facilities. You guys got to spend some good time on that.
Yes. So I actually, so we have a little thing that we're cooking up that we actually did a little video about the facility, but here's the kind of the notes that I will give. There are some pluses and there are some minors with it. So I will say one major plus is the fact that it's right, because that UCF softball stadium is right next to the baseball stadium. You have this deck that is basically on the first base side of the baseball stadium and the third base side of the softball stadium. That is a very awesome place to watch a softball game.
By the way, when he says next to, he literally means they are connected. Like where we were sitting, if you walk to one side, you're on the softball field. If you walk to the other side, you're on the baseball field. They're basically the same stadium with 2 different fields.
Now, with that said, UCF obviously cannot replicate that. But I think that's more of just a certain personality factor of the USF's facilities that I quite particularly liked. And I'm glad that, it's a nice little draw to, if you want to just go see a game there, because, it's the privileges you have being a Tampa native, Nick.
Especially if you're a baseball and softball fan. Like, I'm a baseball and a softball fan. Like, I sat where most of the media, Bryson, you sat there today for part of the game at the deck where the media was set up. And you could literally watch the softball field and the baseball field next back door. Now, they try to avoid playing games at the same time. The negative about it is you can't really play both softball and baseball at the same time like we do at UCF because of foul ball issues. Because there's a ton of foul balls that come over from baseball, it comes over from softball, vice back and forth. So what they do at USF, that's why you see a lot of USF softball games or baseball games played early in the day. And what they do is they rotate. Usually softball plays early on a Friday and Saturday. Baseball plays at night. Maybe they flip it around, things like that. So you have to be creative scheduling wise. That's the negative with that. But, and that's an interesting topic because I like both. The reason I don't go to as many baseball games is because we go head to head a lot. So I can't go there as much. Whereas, so to each his own. The one thing, and I'll give a shout out to our friend Kevin Reese, who brings this up. They do have nice shades, don't they, boys? At least much better than the complex does.
Yeah. Yes. So that, it does provide shade, which is very helpful for us, especially on, again, a hot weekend here in Tampa. Being in the shade, oh, man, thank you. Now, another interesting part, and people might view this as a positive or a negative, is that the seating for the USF softball facility you can actually sit right at field level, which is really interesting because the Plex doesn't do that. The Plex sits you about a couple feet above field level. Now, in some ways, that for people that want that experience, that's a positive. The negative aspect is when the dirt gets kicked up, it's going right in your face. So,
and that happened this weekend.
Yes, it did. So, I think it does depend on the beholder. For me, it was really cool to get some shots right at the ground level. Like the videos that you saw me posting on the UCF Banneret_SBN Twitter account from there are some of my favorite highlight videos I've recorded for Twitter. Those are some of my favorites because they're right down there. But again, if you're a fan of not having dirt kicked in your face, then maybe the Plex is the more beneficial. But
either way, I think we can agree. I mean, the Plex needs to be, and I wrote about this about a week ago on the Banneret, on the same article, the Willis Perfect Game. There needs to be renovations. They got to figure something out because you're going into the Big 12 now, and I'm not going to give it away. But here, I'll give you a hint. The Big UCF next year is going to host 2 of the following 4 teams. It's either going to be Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas, or Baylor. 2 of those teams coming to the Plex next year. They bring a lot of fans, a lot of interest. You can make good money. And you've seen it. Both of you have seen it when the place is packed. I mean, people are scrambled all over the place. They're tight. We got to figure something out here in the coming years because I think softball, with the interest it has, needs some renovations. I know there's been some announcement stuff with facility upgrade plan announcements, and they're doing stuff with basketball and volleyball, which is good. But I think softball, they got to figure something out. Otherwise, you're giving away money to some extent, in my opinion.
Not just that. Can we just give them a big screen? Like USF had a
video board. You're talking video board. Yeah. Did you like the video board? USF has video board there.
Oh my God. Hey, they actually got to play a hype video on the video board where we heard a very familiar voice on that. So that was really fun. The other thing I will say is I think the USF actually has higher capacity than the Plex, I think.
Yes.
Or at least.
Yes.
So that I think is also a major bonus for USF because more people can watch at that stadium. And so remember, they had to set up temporary seating at the Plex when they hosted the Orlando Regional. So I think if you're talking about the Plex, I think honestly, while each facility has its charms, I think you have to give a slight edge to USF, if only because more people can actually go there. And that's sad to say because I love the Plex. And again, I love the fact that I won't get dirt kicked in my face there. But the fact is that with how much interest softball is getting, you need to get more seating in there now. Also, shades would be nice in a bigger press box, but
listen, there's been a lot of people that told me, hey man, I would go to more games, but I just can't go to those early games because of the shade, because of the sun. You know this very well from your experience at the regionals last year, Bryson, how that could be an impact. And it's weird for me because technically, selfishly, I do benefit from that because there's more viewers that are watching the broadcast. But I agree. I'd rather have more people in the stands, especially now in technology, both. So we'll see. We'll see what the plans are. Hopefully they can figure something out because I think the interest in the demand is there because our capacity, the softball capacity this year is 98% filled. Think about that. 98. 112 last year. to put that in perspective, other than football is like 98, 99. I think Brandon can correct me on that from a capacity fill. They're pretty much sold out season tickets this year for the upcoming year. So they're probably going to be close to 99, 100% capacity. Most games. Other than football, the next best is like 52% capacity. So the other sports have room for seating. They have room. Softball does not. And there's interest there. And so, that's for other people to figure that out, not me. I don't have all those answers on that. Let's
move on to something else. I'm tired of praising US.
Let me address JP's question, because obviously Big 12 I mentioned, and he asked the question, JP Gilbert, first time, long time. Is this team capable of being in the top half of the Big 12 next year? Which is a fair question to ask, because Bryson, as you know, pretty much everybody that played this week is eligible to come back next year. Like, at least Volpe was the only player who's out, unfortunately, has an injury and is done. Every other player has eligibility. So this is pretty much, you're going to see this core next year in the Big 12. And a question that is, how can they be coming in? And it's unique because the Big 12 next year, for those that don't know, Oklahoma and Texas will be in the Big 12 one more year. Okay? One more year. We are aware how good Oklahoma is, right? We saw that last year. They are a machine. They're a dynasty right now. They are the favorites. But the reason I bring that up is because I think the answer to that, there's two-part answers to this. You look at next year, Oklahoma will be the favorites. Texas, I think, will be really good. They're top 10. Oklahoma State's very good. So is Baylor. But I think this core with Sarah Willis developed as a pitcher and Grace Jewell had a nice year. I think they're going to add a freshman pitcher in their class that's ranked in the top 17th best class next year that's coming in this fall. And you never know with the portal. I think they're going to be a stacked team next year with this experience. Now, in the Big 12, by the way, is the number one conference RPI this year in softball. It's the number one conference. Better than the SEC. So I think for next year, Oklahoma and Texas, Oklahoma State, Baylor, those are four teams that are going to make the tournament this year. I think UCF could be in that mix and be a top 5 team, which in the Big 12, and this is the beauty, we're going to get used to this, boys, in the Power 5. You could be a 5th place team, you're fine. In the American, 5th place is disaster. Yeah, so, as we've learned with the Memphis series dropping us in the RPI. But so I think they can be real competitive right away. Top half of the league for sure. Top 4, top 5. Let's just go conservative with that. Then Oklahoma and Texas leave. Okay, now we don't know what's coming down the road, so let's not even go there. Yeah. Let's just go with what we know. Even though we think there's a chance there could be some other teams coming from the West Coast, Pac-12, which has been well documented. But let's just go with what we know. With OU, Texas going to the SEC now, you have Oklahoma State, Baylor, and I think UCF would be all in the mix for conference championships. And I've said this on previous interviews. I think personally, and I don't know how you agree or disagree with me on this, Bryson, I personally think softball and women's soccer are the 2 sports right now that I think can compete in the Big 12 and have a shot to win a conference championship in the first couple of years. I think that's for years, just because of what they do in the portal, how they're recruiting. Soccer doesn't have a powerhouse team like in Oklahoma does in softball, right? So I think Tiffany Roberts and Hayek, they got a good shot. Football, the reason I don't bring up football, I think depth is going to be a question. How much of the depth competition? They might take a year or two for Gus to figure that out. We'll see. But here's the beauty of it. You don't have to win the – I'll be quite frank with you. I think if UCF doesn't win today, there's a chance they don't make the tournament because losing to Tulsa probably would have bumped them down too much and they might have gotten hosed. But as I mentioned, and Brandon agrees with me, you could be 4th, 5th in the Big 12 in any sport and still make the NCAA tournament. That's the beauty of playing in a league like that. So let's keep that in mind because I know we get married – as sports fans to win-loss record. Oh, my God, this team lost 3 in a row. They lost 5 in a row and all this. We're going to have years in the Big 12 with all these teams where the win-loss record is not so great, but that doesn't mean you're bad teams. That's, to me, the story. But I think softball and soccer are in the best position. Football, we'll see where they're at from that standpoint. Volleyball, obviously, with the news of Todd Dagenet leaving, I think they're in a rebuild anyway, because I'm sorry, with respect, and they have a good core. I like some of the players they have on the current roster, but you just lost the greatest volleyball player ever in McKenna Melville, one of the great setters ever in Amber Olsen. I'm on a great senior group, and you're going from an American Conference, which was not a very good, strong volleyball league, going into now the Big 12, which is a strong team that has the defending national champions in Texas. So that's tough for them. Baseball, let's not even get into it, but obviously we know the issues there, and going to the Big 12 is not going to be easier. Going strong there. Basketball, my goodness, we know the challenge there with the greatest league ever in basketball, and who knows what's the head for there. So,
and then the other sports really comes down to conference tournament weekend. Like the golf teams, for instance, are going to only play the conference.
Well, in sports like that, it doesn't. I mean, it's not really about the. It's
golf, they don't have it. So
golf is not really like going head to head. I mean, you're going head to head with teams, but you're really going up against the golf course.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And then tennis, and then tennis, of course, is a whole other thing as well. And that mainly centers on the conference tournament as well. But Nick just mentioned men's soccer isn't even going to the Big 12, so you don't even have to worry about that one.
That doesn't count.
But yeah, no, I agree with you. Women's soccer and softball, I think, look poised to do the best. But with that said, I think that there's a little bit of a caveat on the softball side, and that is that Coach Ball Malone needs to hit it in the transfer portal again. She needs to bring in she needs to strike pay dirt for like a third time in the transfer.
Why are you gonna doubt her? She's been 4 for 4.
I'm not, by the way. I'm not. But the thing is that it's crucial that she does, because Sarah Willis, with help from Grace Jewell, cannot take on the Big 12 alone. As much of a legend as she is, I don't want her arm to be a noodle.
Well, I don't think you will. I mean, again, they got a freshman pitcher from the recruiting class that's coming in, and like I said, we got to wait till the portal season will start next week. We'll see what happens down the road and all that. But they're aware. Let's give her, I think she knows what she's doing, finding players and
recruit. She's already shown that she can get good transfers. Let's trust her on this one. She's earned that.
No, yeah, I'm not doubting her either. I'm just saying that from that we're looking at what is needed. I am confident that Coach Ball, she's already given us 2 seasons why we should be confident in her with the transfer portal, but it's something that just needs to continue. Because it's going to be crucial that they have a deep pitching core. Like, one Sarah Willis cannot take on the Big 12.
I think I would agree. But we got more. We still remember this staff is still young. Joel's young. I think Felton's still young. And again, more youth coming now. One thing that could help is facility upgrades with that. And that's a Cal and Dean question. We got Cal and Dean chiming in. Does UCF current softball facilities hold up against current next year Big 12 facilities? Now, I don't know if people follow. So Oklahoma, like next year or the year after, they got this brand new stadium. It's like $80-100 million. Softball over there.
Man, that's great money to have towards softball.
Isn't it? It's nice. Must be nice. So no, I mean, I think there's some that where UCF is fine, like they're better than Iowa State or something like that. But overall, no, you still need to upgrade. And that could help you get players and recruit and all that too. So interest, especially when you got some of the marquee teams that are becoming here in the future playing in the Big 12. No disrespect to the American. I had enjoyed my time in the American covering the league. This was I think my 5th or 6th conference championship tournament I've covered. But, certain fan bases like Memphis doesn't really bring softball fans. Right, like a Texas, like a Baylor does, or an Oklahoma State does. So yeah, I think there's definitely some brushes and push that we need to do on the facilities there, and I think this program's deserved it for sure. And I'm sure they'll figure something out. We'll see.
Now, that I 100% agree with you. With all they've done, they deserve these upgrades. Like, it's just as simple as that. When you win, I think you earned yourself a little money. That's all I'm going to say. But
I think the comparison with a good comparison to make here is because look at the recent facility upgrades package that was just unveiled for Edition Arena and the venue. Those upgrades there are making up for things that really should have been done a long time ago. Yeah. This one, though, in this case, this team earned those. Like, this is something where your team is doing well. You have earned you have earned our attention, our resources. Like, you have shown that we want that. Like, you have proven it's like investing. You have shown that you are a good investment, and we are going to further that good investment because you've shown how good of an investment you are. So now obviously it depends on when we're gonna get certain Big 12 budgets soon. So maybe there's gonna be a time when it's gonna happen. It's just not now. Who knows? Who knows what's going on behind the scenes? But I think if this team has proven anything over these past few seasons, is that they need to be at the front of the line for when this budget increases for facility upgrades.
You won't get an argument from me.
I mean, although first in line of the Olympic sports, because of course football is football.
Yeah,
of course.
It's just how it goes.
That's fine.
So Eric, I gotta ask you, because I don't think we touched on this just yet. But what, in your opinion, is your favorite moment from this weekend?
Yeah, I think we'll go back to Thursday. It's an image that I'll never forget in my mind. Thursday, UCF's playing Memphis. It's not a good start. Memphis up 4-0. You guys were around me. I was not a person that you wanted to be around. Nick was trying to cheer me up, and it wasn't working.
Okay.
It was looking bleak. It was bleak. 4-0, top of the fourth. And UCF, and you could tell there was a moment. Coach Bumble got a little agitated with the umpires, rightfully so, because they were terrible. They were atrocious, but that's all. Like the NBA made the NBA officials. That's bad. But anyway.
We made it to the conference finals, man. Why are you complaining?
We
digress. Good word, Bryce. So anyway, should we get agitated? You could tell they needed a spark. And there was that double play turn to get out of that top of the fourth. And as soon as Doherty got that ball at first, you see this dugout explode. And right in the middle of it is Coach Ball Malone. Just got fist pump and yelling and screaming. I know we were talking off air. I wish somebody would have cut that up on a highlight because because we would have been a talk, because that was an iconic moment for me, because you could see she was getting the players going and the players were getting fired up, and it changed the momentum of that game. And you could feel it if you were there. You could sense something was changing. UCF got a run in that inning, got a couple more later, and then obviously Jazz Williams set the scene for her in the bottom of the sixth with that 2-run homer to go up 5-4. By the way, there's an article on Jazz Williams on MLB.com right now, so plug that.
Moms.
Whoa, Brandon! Was that like Heupel's fist pump? Yes. Oh, that's a great one, Brandon.
That's a great
moment.
Yes. That's the one where he hyped up the crowd.
Yes. Great point. That was an iconic moment in football. That is a great point. Where he's getting the crowd and they're getting fired up. That was exactly the same thing where she was going. If you watch the archive of the Memphis game, go to that. And it was really iconic. And she had not done that. I've seen every game she's coached since 19. She's emotional. She could get emotional, but she never got it to that level. And you could tell that was partly tactical and partly she was emotional and fired up. It's like, we're going to not go down. And she's talked about it in the post game. And, man, it got the crowd going, the UCF fans that were there. It got the players, more importantly, going. Since that burst, UCF outscored their opponents 18-1 the rest of the conference tournament. That's an image I will never forget. And the Josh Heupel, man, props to you, Brandon. Yeah, because I was there. I remember that. When he did that, that stadium erupted, changed the momentum there, too. That's a great point. I'm trying to think of other similar moments like that. But you guys were there when that happened. You could give your perspective on that. I saw it from the upper deck. I think you guys were down on the lower level.
Deck, but we were kind of on our other side. I think part of that was just because you were kind of unhappy. So we were just like, let's let them cool down over there. But no, I saw that. And, like you said, it was after some questionable calls and, coach was getting pissed. And quite frankly, if I was in her position, I would too. But, when they got that double play, I literally turned to Bryson and I'm like, softball and baseball, it's a game of momentum. That could be what we just saw there, that could be huge. That could be what changes this game. And sure enough, it was. You and me were talking about this before we went live. Obviously there were bigger plays, the Chloe Evans home run, the Jasmine Williams home run and all that. But to me, that was the most important play of the entire tournament. Because when you look what they went on to do after that, like they only gave up like one run.
18-1 run. Yeah.
After that moment, like you felt it the moment that happened. The energy.
If you were there, you felt it. Everybody could sense it. I think even the opponent sensed it. And the thing was, UCF scored right away, and now it's like, oh, here they're coming. They're coming. They're coming. And then it's set up.
Right.
Eric, I think I might have actually gotten a little bit of that on video. Let me see if I can show you. So because I remember
I love the hypo pump, man. That's a good one.
I was filming a lot. So let me see if does this look familiar to you?
Well, I can't tell from my phone right there. Your phone. Can't tell.
It's a little after. You can't really see, but like, I don't know.
So I then turned the phone to Nick, but I think you can see Coach Ball Malone right near it, because right near you could see Coach Ball Malone coming around and notice the fist bump right there.
Yeah.
I believe that I don't think that was. I think you saw it erupting from the dugout, right?
Yeah. Because that's where she came.
She started flowing from the dugout out to meet the players.
She walked into the huddle. I really wish she was wearing a mic at that moment just so we could hear what she was saying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What's funny is she actually was interviewed right after that. It was scheduled. She was interviewed before the bottom of the fourth in that game. So, but I watched the broadcast. I was frustrated because they didn't really push that narrative as much as I would have if it was with our crew.
Well, it only just happened. We didn't really get the significance of it until a little later.
I knew. I was sitting with our director of ops, Adam. I knew there was something.
Right, but know that these American people. These American people.
No, I agree. Great point. Right. Agreed. But that was, you could sense something there because Dory was right there in the middle, and from that point on, they were loud in that dugout. I was getting messages how loud they were even today. Like just the chants. Like you got to hear the chants for them because they're determined on that Friday game against USF. They were going to be louder than the USF fans. And you both told me you succeeded. You thought it was like 50-50 split. How were the crowds on Friday for that
honestly,
matchup?
Like going back to kind of what he was saying, what's your favorite moments? The double play will probably be my first, but a very close second was the crowd against USF. Because I will say, in terms of attendance, I think there was more USF fans. And, they were chanting, they were barking like dogs a lot for some reason.
Piero, because they bark when Megan Piero. They're
okay. All right. That's okay. You do you, USF, but like I think I'm trying to remember.
The dugouts are very animated. That's another thing. It was really cool. All the dugouts were animated. UCF was especially so, but all of them were really.
Yeah, but anyways,
that's the beauty of softball. Yeah,
you have the parents. They're trying to start the chants, but then we got out of an inning. I believe it was a double play.
Yep.
And then the UCF fans just erupt. You got the UCF chants, and then the most iconic thing, and I have a picture of it. Someone out in the crowd holds up the UCF Tampa's hometown team 2 flag. Like all I'll say is like that. I'll remember that because it's just one of those moments where I'm like, it reminds me how much I love this school and I love this fan base. Like just to see them come out and support it, and give them the team support in what could really have been a hostile environment. That is something I'll remember forever.
Well, and I'll say I agree. And that was that double play you were talking about was in that top of the fifth where Jazz made that sick play with Macario to turn to 2 to get out of that fifth inning.
They had a lot of those in that game. Like they just.
Well, it was great.
They got out of a lot of jams, not just with double plays, but can we talk about that? How they threw the runner out at third?
Carson Fryer, big play that doesn't get. Another play that didn't maybe get a lot of buzz, but I made sure to talk about it on Twitter. Top of the 6, you're talking about. Remember, USF was the visiting team. USF had 2 on, 1 out at that point. You're like, ooh,
yeah.
What's going on here? And I want to say Pond. It was either Sheehan or Pond was the hitter. They're one in the middle lineup.
Yeah, I think so.
And there's a pitch, and for whatever reason, Jordan Cadleb, their first baseman, who had 2 hits in the game, was halfway between second or third and decided to take off. But Fryer noticed it right away.
Right.
And made a perfect throw to third to gun her down. You could see Ken Erickson like, what are we doing? The head coach for USF at third base. What are you doing? That's a gutsy play. That's not an easy play for a catcher to make because a lot of times catchers are not even aware of that play. I know a lot of catchers sometimes maybe overthrow that ball. A lot of things could go wrong there. but she was heads up, made a big throw to get that second out, and he almost had a big exhale on the UCF side and a big oh no on the USF side. And I want to say Willis struck out the next hitter, and they got out of it, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, I think, either that or she popped her out, but I think it was a strike.
Something like that, right? Yeah. So either way, she got out of that jam unscathed.
I mean, that play even caught me off by surprise. I don't know where I was looking, and then I just looked down and I see the runner head into third. I'm like, wait, is she trying to steal? And then I see the ball and they got her out. And what made that moment even funnier for me is when we're talking to Sarah after the game, is she was like, she had no idea what was going on.
She had no idea, right? Because that was the thing. It was delayed.
Like,
it was a delay. It was like a delay, and the TV crew almost missed it themselves. Yeah. I think everybody was shocked. It was absolutely shocked.
I can't believe they went for it, but like, thank God she got her out, because if she gets safe,
it's a whole different inning. It's a whole different inning.
That might have been Carson Fryer's play of the year. Like she saw that nobody else did. Nobody else saw that except Carson Fryer.
I mean, and I'm so happy for her because she had tough shoes to fill, right? With the Griffin injury. Yeah. You know, who's going to be the catcher, platooning a lot. And she quietly kind of won that job as the year went on. And, you know, for people that don't know, her dad played at Florida State, won a national title. Think about that storyline, by the way, potentially next week. Huh? Bryson, you know you love storylines. Her dad, national champion at Florida State, 99. Her uncle, national champion with 93 FSU team. Her cousin, by the way, was in attendance, boys, a baseball fan, Steve Pierce, Red Sox World Series MVP in 2018, was in attendance this weekend at that game. They were all at that game. That was a defining moment for Carson Fryer. I'm glad you brought that up, Nick, because that was a play that kind of went under the radar in the USF game. But that was a huge play. And I think not an accident that a lot of Sarah's success has been with Carson catching. Carson caught the perfect game. So let's give her some credit there from a defensive standpoint as well.
I'm more excited about that play now because, honestly, looking back, I think my reaction to that play was, wait, what happened? Oh, we got her out. Cool. Because it was just so sudden.
Well, I mean, we were caught so off guard. Like, that's the thing. Like, Carson was, it was almost like she was the Flash. And it was like, if you guys watch the television show The Flash, there's this thing called Flash Time, where basically the speeds, anyone that has super speed in that show is able to talk really fast to each other. It was like Carson Fryer was in Flash Time. As she saw a runner going that no one else saw and gunned her out. And
great awareness.
It's the awareness.
In my 16 years, it's the biggest play a catcher has made at UCF postseason game ever.
Wow. Well, from a fielding standpoint, because I'm sure there's been some offensive.
Catch. That's what I'm saying. From a fielding position, it's critical because again, a lot of things could go wrong there. A lot of things. As simple as, oh, you didn't notice, and now she's at third base. To, oh my God, she threw it and she threw it away. A lot of things could go wrong. She nailed that perfectly and changed that momentum of that inning.
Speaking of defense, let's also shout out because I remember, like, did you see the play in the championship where Shannon Doherty just stretched out the farthest that she probably could have gone to get that? I think one of the big things in the first game that led to Memphis getting ahead like they did was because of a couple of errors where basically the fielder missed.
And I think nerves played a factor in that. Yeah, nerves played a factor.
And we almost saw that again, though, in the championship. But Doherty managed to just reach out and grab it. And I think she practically dove for it.
And kept her foot on the bag. I mean, because they replayed that.
Right, exactly. So that's another really heads-up defensive play from this team. I mean, they're honestly... I think that this, one of those. I think this is one of the most complete performances over the course of 3 days. Can we call this a series? Because like a series is basically every single like game. I think this is the best. Well, I think this is one of the best series this team is that this team has done this entire season. I'll
tell you this. I'm going to say this: of the 5 conference tournament championships UCF has in softball. Now, I was not there in 2005, contrary to what some people think. I've not been with the program since day one. I did miss the first 4 years. I just study up on the first 4 years. So I was not there in Boca Raton. That was a very historic, important run because that broke the glass ceiling for UCF. They had not made the NCAA tournament before. The FAU was always the rival that they couldn't get over the hump. They broke through and got to their first tournament in 2005. 2008, USA was was a showdown. It was a heavyweight fight that was ready to go. It was UCF Houston was the two top teams with the two best players in the conference, and Angel Shamblin, a pitcher for Houston, who's in the Houston Hall of Fame, against Allison Kime, who's in the UCF Hall of Fame. That was an iconic one-on-one matchup. But I think this tournament run is probably the most memorable for a lot of reasons, for reasons we've already discussed. Some of the moments like the Ball Malone burst, the double play turns, and something that Brandon has brought up, the fact that it was at USF. USF in the final conference tournament. I can tell you this because I was there. USF was circling this game to knock UCF out. That was their goal. And I know that because
the last laugh.
Yeah, I saw,
to get the last laugh. Like Ken Erickson didn't pitch. Jordan Dixon, who started the game on Friday, she did not pitch against UCF when they were in Orlando. She was banged up, but we knew he was gearing up for the tournament run. And I think everybody knew they were going to be in the same bracket and they were destined to meet. And it was going to be the last meeting in the American. And it was going to be who gets the last word in Tampa in that environment. That was memorable. And the fact that this UCF team got to celebrate on that field at USF. No other UCF team can say that, at least for another 24 hours. It would have been, to me, it was iconic from that standpoint. That's why I think this will be a memorable tournament run, a memorable run for this team. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's see. Only way this weekend could have been better had it been Wichita State in the championship game. You have to think UCF wanted one more shot at the Shockers for winning the regular season and beating them 2 out of 3. I think they were ready for that. I think we all thought
to knock off a ranked team to win the championship.
Hey,
yeah,
you never know what the NCAA tournament has in store. No,
no, I agree. I'll tell you this: they were geared. They were.
In some ways, I think it makes too much sense that the final 2 games UCF plays against American teams are USF for obvious reasons, and then Tulsa, who has always been that one thorn in the side. Eric, I know you've talked about, you kind of alluded to that effect whenever these two teams have played together. So I think it's only fitting that.
Well, how about this irony?
Is them in its final game.
Well, and the irony is in 2015 when UCF won the tournament at home in Orlando, they beat USF in the semis, and they won the championship against Tulsa. So same path. Kind of funny. Tulsa obviously has brought a lot of headaches there, but I understand what Brandon's saying. They were ready. I think they would have beaten Wichita because they didn't see Willis twice in that series when we lost to Wichita 2 out of 3. I think Willis would have shut down Wichita State. Wichita State does not hit well in that park, but they lost. So, Tulsa is it is what it is, where the championship is. So, there's probably, that would have been sweet to kind of get that payback on them because that's been kind of quietly a nice little rivalry there for 3 years. But, we had a lot of history with Tulsa too. So the bottom line is we got that trophy hoisted in that field. And you can tell some of they'll never admit it, but I think those USF employees, the workers, they were like, can we just get them out of here as quickly as we can? Right? Like, didn't you feel it?
Well, think about what it was like for Allison Kime and Georgina Korick in the studio.
Yeah, they did a good job. Yeah, they were in the studio there. Yeah.
I don't know. I will say, I do think it is. We should point out though, like we ruled a Tulsa team, who the previous day had only allowed the 20th ranked Wichita State. They only gave up 1 run. So I think.
And by the way, that, if I'm not mistaken, that is the last sporting event the UCF and Tulsa play because Tulsa doesn't have a baseball team. That's it.
That's it.
We're done with Tulsa. We're done.
Tulsa track and field might have something to say about that, but
that's not a head-to-head though. That's
okay. There you go. I just want to make sure we're being accurate here. Okay.
I'm just saying, no more Tulsa trips unless you're, for whatever reason, you're out of your mind. Ready, UCF.
I don't know, but yeah.
Although I guess men's soccer, that might be the one sport they made. Nah, UCF ain't gonna play.
Okay, as members of the American though, of the American, that's it.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I just want to say it myself, Matt. What we were talking about earlier, to beat USF and to win the championship at USF.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that just makes us feel so much better.
That was the goal. That was the goal.
From Tampa, I know so many people who go to go to USF. The fact that I get that bragging rights, oh man, I'm so happy. 12 straight victories too. I think we need to add that.
12 in a row, and they've overpowered USF. I think USF's only scored this year, if I'm not mistaken, 2 runs in the 4 games.
The Daily Stampede guys like tweeted something like that.
Yeah, your buddies there, our buddies at Daily Stampede. Thank you for the breakdown.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry,
so
Nate.
they're
really cool.
So there's something that is kind of amazing to me with everything that we've brought up. Is that I don't think because let's talk about that USF game for a second, because we talked about a lot of stuff involving about that, but can we talk about Chloe Evans for a second?
I was going to say we need to talk about her.
Because it feels like we've talked about a lot of people on this team, but like that 2-run homer that she got, or no,
she hit in the first inning.
that she hit in the
With
first.
2 outs. Now, well, let's break down the play that's forgotten there. The play that is forgotten. Okay, yes, Chloe gets the home run, but do you remember the play before that?
Yeah, it looked like the person she was going to get out.
Cadlam.
But then
couldn't come up with the pop-up, the blue pop-up from Aubrey.
Right,
yes.
And she beat it out. Right. I remembered that. In the moment, I'm like, oh, thank God she dropped that ball.
And that allowed Chloe to hit with 1 on, and she drilled the 2-run homer. If that ball is play, if they make that play, Chloe's leading off the second. Who knows where we're at? So let's not forget that was and great credit Aubrey for the hustle to beat that play. But it set the tone for Chloe, which obviously in 3 of the 4 UCF wins this year, Chloe Evans had the game-winning RBI.
And with that home run, that was her 17th straight game with a hit.
Did she get a hit today?
I looked at stat broadcasts.
I don't think she did this year.
I don't think she did. So
she has a program record. She has a program record.
17.
Yeah, I didn't really. I'll be honest. I haven't talked about it enough on Twitter because I didn't want to like jinx it. So I kept it quiet. But that is the school record, which has been held for a long time.
Yeah, look, she did her job. She did her job this tournament. That to me, it's between that and the Jasmine Williams home run from game 1. Those are probably the 2 biggest offensive plays of the tournament. I don't know which one I put at number 1 yet.
I would go, I'm going to go, yes, both are huge. So you're right. The Jazz one was huge because you got them over the hump in the Memphis game. And then you're right, Chloe. I mean, those are both very strong. Those are probably those 2 big hits. And I'll tell you the big hit today was the 2-out, 2 RBI. Was it a triple for a Kennedy?
Yes, yeah,
triple, right? That's what I thought. And then she made a triple in that Memphis comeback. We're like, whoa, which helped them get the first run. But that triple to right field, because Tulsa was playing her, they were daring her to hit it to right field. And she drilled that ball to right, and that gave UCF a 3-0 lead. And you're like, all right, here we go. And they started chipping away. And remember, I kind of warned you, hey, remember when Jazz hit that home run in the 5th? I told you, hey, they're going to run roll them here. Be ready. Because you could tell they smelled it. They smelled it. Everybody could feel it. Tulsa even felt it. And then Aubrey Evans fitting ended it with the walk-off hit. She had, 3 RBIs today?
Yeah. Can I tell this story? So, I was late to the game because I was at my friend's high school graduation, my old high school. That was cool. I checked my phone right as it ends, and I'm like, oh, it's like in the 4th inning. I'm cool. I got time to get there. And then suddenly, I'm like talking with some people, and then I look down. I'm like, oh no, they're gonna run roll this. I gotta go. So I literally have to sprint to my car and get out of a jammed parking garage. But I don't know. I literally, during the graduation ceremony, I scared so many people around me when Sarah hit that triple. The speakers up there talking, just like, congratulations, you guys all deserve this. And I just suddenly go, yes. And everyone's just like looking at me, and I'm like, sorry, got too excited.
Well, I know your goal was to make it back in time for the end.
I knew to see that. I'm really upset I didn't get to see the exact.
Blame the graduation. I mean,
but I mean,
another day.
I'm not gonna say I regret it. I got to see my old teammates. It was a little high school reunion, and I got to be there and talk to the guys, the team after the game. But so yeah, pretty unique way for me to see the team go back to back. But
well, let's also mention, because you talk about Jasmine Williams and her home run basically was sort of like, it was sort of like you smell blood in the water at that point. Like I would argue that that was the stake. That home run was kind of like the stake right there. Like, all right, you're not all the way done, but like that's the signal right there. Jasmine Williams with 2 home runs this weekend, Mother's Day weekend. That, in my opinion, is the mom bombs. I think that is also one of the big stories of the weekend. Cindy Balmalone, of course, being a mother herself, her family was was there in Tampa. Jasmine's family, her husband and son.
MLB.com did a whole story on her that came out on Friday.
Some big coverage.
National coverage.
Yeah.
I'll say this: if Sarah, rightfully so, was the tournament MVP, right? No disagreement there.
No,
yes,
100%.
Take Sarah out of the equation. I think number 2 in that voting would have been Jasmine Williams.
I was going to ask about that.
With her defense and her bat, I think she would have been tournament MVP. If you had an offensive, if they would do it like bowl games, you know how in bowl games, some of the bowl games, they do offensive play MVP and defensive MVP?
Yeah.
To some extent. Willis wins one, and then Jazz could have gotten the other. So I thought she was fantastic. She swung the bat this week as good as she's had all year. Remember, she was on the U.S. National Under-19 team with Coach Malone was an assistant when they won the gold. Jazz was a big part of that. She was an all Pac-12 player in Oregon. You're seeing why they brought her in. And again, Coach Malone came all Woodall last year. Jazz, Chloe, Sarah this year in the portal. No other coach can say they hit 4 home runs in the portal like Coach Malone did.
Hey, and don't forget a true freshman, Aubrey Evans, with the recruiting.
Tremendous. The highest touted infielder they've had since Natalie Lane, who's in the UCF Athletic Hall of Fame, was a shortstop from 2009 to 2012. Very similar players. Lane was a better athlete, and Lane was faster than Aubrey, but both played baseball. And Aubrey's such a pure hitter. That's why they have her in that 3 spot, because teams pitch around Cody. People have been talking about why is Cody's numbers down? Well, a big part of that is they're pitching around her a lot and daring others to beat them. And Chloe is so good at the cleanup spot, so they put in Aubrey in the between because they know she's going to get pitches, because you don't want to. The reason is if you put Doherty there, then who's protecting Chloe? So that's why the lineup is the way it is, because Aubrey's going to get pitches because they're pitching around Cody and she's got Chloe behind her. So that's why that offense has clicked with that lineup. And remember, though, I believe they're 21-1 when Kennedy Searcy has been at the leadoff spot. Because that was an issue early in the year. As you know, they were a revolving door on the leadoff spot early in the year, especially with the injury to Elise Volpe.
Yes, I agree with that. I agree with that. There, Aubrey. I think Aubrey. I think it's so fitting, by the way, that Aubrey ended up getting the walk-off hit there. I think it was so fitting that she was the new kid on the block in this one, because the other transfers have done softball at the collegiate level before, but Aubrey, true freshman, to get that one, just
freshman of the year, maybe on the Bannies there, Bryson.
That's the argument. The argument is definitely to be made there. There's been a lot of really good freshmen throughout UCF this year. Sandwich to Sutham on the women's golf team might have something to say about that, but.
All right, I'll be a couple months away. We may have to do that.
Yeah. Aubrey. Let's just say this: Aubrey definitely cemented, I think, her bid for that with her performance here throughout the season. Here, especially at this American Athletic Conference tournament. I mean, just everywhere you look in this UCF lineup, there's something there. Kennedy Searcy, Jada Cody, Shannon Doherty, Aubrey Evans, Chloe Evans, Carson Fryer at catcher. Janisha Rowe in center field.
Defense,
There's and Savannah Adams, by the way, who we didn't really get to, who we saw in action a little bit as well this time. Katie Burge got some good pinch running action as well.
One of the leaders in that dugout. She's got like a chair there. She gets feisty. She gets tense.
Is she the one that was doing that? I was noticing that the entire time, and I was like, "Who is doing that?"
That's Katie.
That was just great. And then also Nehonda Lewis. She ended up scoring.
Pinch ran and scored on a wild pitch. Lando Lake's very own, by the way. Lando Lake's. Nick, you can comment. I think that's pretty close to Tampa, right? Like backyard.
Close. Good, pretty decent drive. Not too far.
So, all right. So let's kind of wrap up the softball, because then we're gonna wrap this up, because I got to do another softball show in 20 minutes. Plus, you guys got to get ready for track to resume. And we'll close with some track.
Yeah.
We'll finish with some track thoughts, but I want to remind people. So Sunday night, 7:00, ESPN2 is the selection show. My guess is there'll be a watch party. Follow your social media places for UCF softball for that. That's all I'll say.
There should be a watch party. I'd be shocked if there wasn't.
There will be. I'll just say that. I don't want to get in trouble. I'll let them decide announcing all that. But I think if you're a diehard UCF fan, you kind of know where it's going.
Yeah.
All right. So watch 7:00 Sunday night. I think you'll know early where UCF's going. I think they're going to Tallahassee. Florida State, I think, will be a 3 national seed. So I think we'll hear that within the first 5-10 minutes of the selection show. So don't be surprised. It's not like last year. Remember, Bryson, last year, how that thing went to the end?
Oh, last year it was just an absolute. Let's just say, I think this year might be the most relaxed UCF selection show ever.
Yes, because it's just a matter of where and who. So I think the where is going to be Tallahassee. I would be surprised if it's not. The big question will be who will join UCF and like Florida State. There'll be a random 4 seed from a 1 bid league that could be scrappy. Who knows? That's going to be interesting too for people like me. But who's the 2? I think the 2 seed's going to be an SEC team. It always is with Tallahassee because of the 400-mile radius bus rule. The question is it Florida or Auburn or South Carolina? Those are the 3 options. I don't think Mississippi State's going to be sent there. So I think it'll be one of those 3 teams. I really do think it's Florida or Auburn, and I think it depends. And my gut tells me it's going to be Florida because that's never been done before, and that's going to create a lot of new buzz in the sport. I think that's going to create a lot of chatter. I think it's going to be one of the more if that happens, it'll be one of the most marquee regionals of the entire country. Maybe the most marquee regional in a long time. I was thinking about this. Volleyball in 2018 hosted a regional with Florida and Florida State. So that has happened before. However, this would be on a different level because you got programs, Florida and Florida State cases that have won national titles and 3 of the highest profile head coaches right now in the sport. Yeah. Coach Ball Malone and Coach Walton and Coach Alameda. I mean, Walton and Ball Malone are both on the U.S. national team as assistants. And then Lonnie has known Coach Ball Malone since Lonnie was an assistant at Stanford and Cindy Ball Malone was a player at Pacific. So they go way back. So that is a high-profile coaching regional if they go that route. And let me just say this. If it's Auburn, that's a rematch from 2021 Tallahassee regional. A lot of the Auburn players are still on that team. A lot of the some of the UCF players still on that team. And then obviously the Auburn UCF, the first thing that people will be thinking about and how many GIFs and images we'll see of Gus Malzahn, right? Like that's the Gus Malzahn Bowl.
Peach Bowl.
A lot of Peach Bowl reference. If we go to Tallahassee, by the way, old case Mackenzie Milton stomping grounds.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Other UCF, I don't know why I have to think of other UCF. So I think that's where we're going. I would bet like 95% that's where we're going. But we'll find out officially. Maybe they'll surprise me. Doubt it. But I think they'll surprise. I think that's where we're headed there.
Well,
all right. So that's the thought. Let's wrap this up with that's the softball portion. Let me get you 2 to set up now. Track and field again. Now, as you reported earlier, it will resume at what time?
9 p.m. We actually have received a schedule. A schedule from UCF, the UCF Track and Field Twitter account that because it looks like I think what happened is the American Conference sent like an updated schedule out to the rest of like the teams, and so the UCF the UCF Track and Field Twitter account, shout out to Alex Cleff who's running that for the UCF Strategic Communications. He put the updated schedule in a tweet with UCF Track, and this is what the schedule's looking like. At 9 p.m., we have the 100-meter hurdles and the long jump. So Renaya Jones going at 9, as well as Jasmine Scott Kilgo, Ashira Collins in the long jump that will resume. At 9:35 p.m., we have the 800-meter run. At 10:05 p.m., we have the 400-meter dash with Latasha Smith and Kia Williams. Now, mind you, these 3 track events, the 800-meter, the 400, and the 1, and then at 10:35 p.m., the 100-meter dash are all trials. So these are going to be events to narrow the field down to who is going to run in the finals tomorrow. And then at 11:05 p.m., the 3,000-meter steeplechase with Brina Mullaney. That one's going to be all done. The distance run, this one I believe is a trials and finals type of event because it's based on the number of entries that you get. So it's going to be a late night for us here.
I was going to say, first pitch softball was 11 a.m. This will be like a 12-hour day for you guys.
Oh, yes, that is. Yes, well, hey, thank Mother Nature for that one.
Yeah.
But and I think this is why they're going this long, because one, USF Track and Field Stadium has lights, so you can go as long into the night as you need to. The second thing, though, is the fact that track and the action tomorrow starts at about 2:30. So you want to give as much rest time as possible for the athletes that have to do the trials. Like, again, the 800, the 400, and the 100-meter dash and the 100-meter hurdles. All those athletes are going to have to run again tomorrow in the final. And I think they just wanted to be hesitant to make those athletes run the same event in the same day twice. I think I think they just wanted to prevent that from happening, and it looks like they were willing to go really deep into the night in order to do that. So while it is a long day for us, I think in general, I think that's probably the best decision in terms of making sure the athletes stay healthy, and it's the best in the case of their for their wellness and health and all that stuff. So, but that also does help things as well, that because say they had to push things for tomorrow. If they did that, then there might be a possibility where if you have athletes competing in multiple events to save themselves, they might pull themselves out, or the coach might pull an athlete from one of those events. And so the problem, if you have to do that, is for UCF's track and field team. One of the reasons they won the indoor championship was because they inundated the finals of the event with their athletes, and they picked up a lot of points in the sprint events. If you end up having it, so if that scenario happens where you push it to tomorrow, then maybe you might not have that. And so this strategy of this schedule of doing the trials tonight, this is going to be a big night for the UCF track and field team, because this is the night where they can lay the groundwork to get as many points as possible tomorrow, because the last day tomorrow is really when you're going to rack up a lot of points. Because with the points right now, UCF has about, I think, 15 points. I think they're about mid-pack at the moment with the points they currently have. But tomorrow is the day where you're going to rack up a lot of points with those track events, that ideally would be inundated with UCF athletes. So tonight is when they need to set the stage.
And you can watch this now, and then for people that want to follow it, they can watch it on ESPN Plus. Is that?
Yes. It is broadcasted.
Yes. If you have something, if there's something you'd like to do tonight, that's something you can do tonight. You can watch UCF track and field.
All right, so you can watch it on ESPN Plus, and then you two will be there. Tell us where they can follow you throughout the night and the rest of tomorrow, because you're going to stay there till the end of this. You're going to stay to the end of track and field. I will be with softball on the selection show, get reaction there. So that's how we're going to cover this. I will be at the selection show, watch and get reaction. You guys will stay back and watch the track and field and see if track and field could join softball and make this a double dip of American Conference Championships in the city of Tampa. Talk about a Tampa takeover. Where can they follow you guys throughout the night?
So we will be tweeting from the @UCF Banneret _SBN Twitter account. You can also follow us individually at it's Bryson Turner. Nick?
At Nick Porcelli 2.
There you go. So, it's funny. I remember last year when UCF won the American track and field title, and I was like, telling everybody in Island Wing who would listen at the time. And while you were just focusing on the regional being announced at the time, I wonder how that timing is going to work itself out tomorrow. Eric Lopez.
Well, I will say this will be a little more relaxed tomorrow than it was last year, because in our defense, this was a historic regional because we were trying to figure out if we're going to host or not. So I needed to find clues as teams were being released, like, all right, are we going to host or not? So I was very tense. That will not be the case tomorrow, because I have a feeling I know where it's going to happen. But I am going to be – the timetable could be fascinating from that standpoint. So hey, this has been fun, though. This is fun. This is a lot of fun.
The
rain. A lot of fun.
Oh, agreed. And as we've been talking, by the way, the rain has cleared up. The kind of the twilight sky here in Tampa has kind of peaked out a little bit. It hasn't rained for a little bit, but for a little bit here. So I will say I feel pretty confident that the track and field team will be able to get all the events they need to get in today.
Fingers
so
crossed.
far. It's at least it's a beautiful wait period. We still have about an hour to wait before track and field gets underway again, but at least it's gonna be a beautiful wait as far as the scenery here in Tampa, Florida. Maybe Nick and I might pop to a place and get a snack because we definitely need to get some food at some point.
Yeah, dude.
Well, then go ahead. Let's just do that. Let's wrap up the show. Get yourselves hydrated and fed and drink because you got a long night ahead of you. I got to do I'm going to be on In the Circle. If those want to talk some more softball, head over to In the Circle SB. We're going to do a live show at the top of the hour. Me and Victor Anderson, who was also in Tampa, will be there. We'll talk about the national landscape. Well, UCF will come up. I'll make sure of that. We'll do some softball. Follow Bryson and Nick. Historic track and field, trying to win another outdoor championship for Dana Boone and company. And this could turn out to be one of the most historic weekends in the history of UCF athletics.
Right.
Track and field could join softball here. And
Yeah.
Nick and Bryson are there every step of the way.
Yeah, don't forget to follow Black and Gold Banneret on Instagram as well. Nick and I have been posting videos of the weekend from that as well. And softball, it's been mostly softball highlights because softball kind of dominated the front end of the weekend, especially with the rain delay going on at track. But now the track is taking the spotlight on its own. I would say expect some track videos on there as well. Black and Gold Banneret on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to the Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel if you haven't already. We are trying to work to get some post-meet tournament tournament availability with the track and field team. So hopefully that will be on the YouTube channel as soon as possible.
And Nick will have a recap of the softball championship on blackandgoldbanneret.com, and Bryson will recap the track and field as well once that's concluded. Correct, boys?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes, sir. Yes, it's been a fun weekend. And the funny thing is, it's technically kind of only halfway over in some ways because most of track and field is still to go.
So
that's why we're there. We all were there as an army in Tampa there covering it there. So for Nick Porcelli, who's in the back seat, and Bryson Turner, I'm Eric Lopez. The guys are in Tampa. Follow them the rest of the weekend. I will be with softball. Lots of still going on at UCF. Fun time. UCF softball winning back-to-back American Conference Championships. Track going for back-to-back themselves this weekend as they were zoomed later Saturday night and into Sunday. This has been a special edition of Night Shift, a rain delay version, if you will.
yes,
Thank you for joining us. Go Knights and charge on.